They were not looking for a lost civilization. They were not searching for Atlantis or chasing myths or following ancient maps drawn by long-dead hands. They were looking for gold, Spanish gold, sunken treasure buried beneath centuries of Cuban seawater. Routine work, methodical, commercial, unremarkable. And then the sonar lit up. 700 meters beneath the surface of the ocean, in water so deep and dark that no sunlight has touched it in recorded human history. Something was sitting there, waiting. Not rocks, not a reef, not the random scatter of geological debris, walls, blocks, structures, arranged. What that team found in 2001 has never been fully explained. Not by geologists, not by archaeologists, not by anyone. And the reason it can't be explained is the reason it changes everything we think we know about who we are and how long we've been here. Oh, the year is 2001. The Cold War has been over for a decade, and Cuba, long sealed behind political walls, has quietly opened its waters to a handful of foreign exploration companies. One of them is a small Canadian firm called Advanced Digital Communications. At its helm, a marine engineer named Paulina Zalitsky and her husband Paul Weinsweig. Their assignment is straightforward, even mundane by explorer standards. Cuba's waters are a graveyard of Spanish colonial ships, vessels that once carried gold and silver from the Americas back to the Old World and never made it. Hundreds of them. Billions of dollars in treasure still resting on the seafloor, waiting to be found. Zalitsky and Weinsweig's job is to map the ocean floor using side-scan sonar, technology that bounces sound waves off the seabed and translates the echoes into images. Think of it as taking an X-ray of the bottom of the ocean. For months, they map the sandy plains, shipwrecks, coral outcroppings. Nothing unexpected. The work is meticulous, slow, and largely silent. Then, in the waters, off Cuba's westernmost point, the Guanahacobi Bay's peninsula, the sonar returns something it has no business returning. The first thing Zalitsky noticed was the geometry. Nature does not favor right angles. Geology does not build in perfect symmetry. When the sonar image resolved, she wasn't looking at a reef or a rock formation. She was looking at something that had been placed, deliberately, by hands. Smooth stone blocks, massive ones, arranged across the seafloor in patterns that matched no known natural process. Structures that rose and fell like buildings. Shapes that formed what appeared to be roads, platforms, terraces, and rising above them, formations that could only be described as pyramidal. The site covered roughly 2 square kilometers of ocean floor. It sat between 600 and 750 meters below the surface. That's deeper than most submarines are designed to operate. Deeper than daylight can reach. Deeper than almost anything built by human hands has ever been found. Zalitsky did not call a press conference. She did not announce a discovery. She went back. In the summer of 2001, the team returned to the site with something more powerful than sonar. A remotely operated vehicle. A deep-sea robot tethered to the surface ship by a fiber optic cable, equipped with cameras and lights, capable of descending to depths that would crush a human body in seconds. It took hours to reach the bottom, and when it did, the cameras confirmed everything the sonar had suggested. And then some. The structures were real, physically, undeniably real. Massive blocks of stone, some measuring nearly 8 feet by 10 feet, cut and shaped in ways that suggested human craftsmanship. Some were stacked directly on top of one another, forming what appeared to be deliberate platforms. No others stood isolated, like fallen columns. Between them, smooth geometric shapes formed circles and angular configurations. The stone itself resembled granite, hard, dense, not native to the sandy ocean floor around it. And here's where the story deepens into something that no one has been fully able to walk back from since. A Cuban geologist named Manuel Iturralde, a senior researcher at Cuba's National History Museum, a man who had studied ocean formations for decades, reviewed the footage. He had seen natural underwater rock formations across his entire career. He knew what geological accidents looked like. He called these structures extremely peculiar. He said they had captured his imagination. That was a careful way of saying nothing in his training could explain what he was looking at. Now we arrive at the part of this story that doesn't just raise questions, it breaks them. If those structures were built by human hands, they had to have been built above water. No civilization in recorded history constructed cities on the ocean floor. That means, at some point, the place where those blocks now sit, 700 meters below the surface, was dry land. So when did the water rise? This is where geology and archaeology collide like tectonic plates. During the last ice age, roughly 20,000 years ago, sea levels were dramatically lower than they are today. Lower by perhaps 120 meters, not 700 meters. Even at the lowest point in Earth's recent geological history, that land would still have been submerged by nearly 600 meters of water. The math is brutally simple. For that structure to have been built on dry land and then submerged to its current depth, either the sea level dropped far lower than any current model suggests, or the land itself sank. And for land to drop 700 meters through tectonic activity, fast enough to matter in human terms, geologists say that would have taken tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands, of years. The numbers point to an age that predates not just human civilization as we understand it. They point to a time before Homo sapiens is believed to have had the cognitive capacity to build anything at all. 3 explanations have emerged in the years since the discovery. None of them are comfortable. The first, the structures are natural. Geology can, under the right conditions, produce straight edges and stacked formations, fractured basalt columns, crystalline rock formations, tectonic fracture lines. All of these can produce shapes that fool the eye. Some scientists have argued that what Zalitsky captured on sonar and video is simply an unusual but explainable geological event, exaggerated by the imagination of people who wanted to find something more. But Iturralde himself, the geologist, the skeptic, the man paid to believe in natural explanations, never fully committed to that position. He continued to describe the structures as something that had captured the scientific imagination. That is not the language of a man who was certain. The second, the structures were built by a civilization far older than history records. A civilization that flourished along a land bridge connecting Cuba to Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, thousands of years before the oldest known Mesoamerican cultures. Zalitsky herself offered this framing. She spoke of local Maya legends, of an ancestral island homeland that vanished beneath the sea. She suggested the structures may be remnants of a culture tied to those very myths. The third, something far more difficult to categorize. A theory rooted not in archaeology but in geology, that the Caribbean basin itself did not always exist. That there was a period in deep prehistory when the land that now sits beneath that sea was surface terrain, and that whatever lived on it built what it built and was then swallowed whole by geological forces we are only beginning to understand. Each theory is incomplete. Each one raises more questions than it resolves. Here is perhaps the strangest part of this story. After 2001, almost nothing happened. The National Geographic Society expressed interest. Cuba's government pledged support. The scientists from multiple countries said they wanted access. The story ran in major newspapers across the world. For a brief, dazzling moment, it felt like the beginning of something, some great reckoning with the unknown. And then, silence. No major funded expedition followed. No peer-reviewed excavation. No definitive answer. The site sits today at the same depth, in the same darkness, undisturbed. Some have speculated about why. About institutional resistance. About the discomfort of a discovery that doesn't fit inside existing models of human history. About the simple, mundane reality that deep ocean archaeology is extraordinarily expensive and offers no guarantee of return. And some, a quieter group, have suggested the silence itself is part of the answer, that the structures were studied more than the public record shows, but that what was found was deemed too complicated to explain without dismantling something much larger, our timeline of civilization itself. We can't know which of those is true. What we can say is this: the ocean floor off the coast of Cuba has not changed. The structures are still there, and no one has gone back to look. We have a habit, as a species, of assuming that the story of human civilization starts where our records begin. That everything before writing is prehistory, chaotic, simple, unshaped by intelligence. But the ocean is not a blank page. It is a filing cabinet, and most of its drawers have never been opened. What Paulina Zalitsky found in 2001 may have a perfectly rational explanation. The structures may be geological. The shapes may be coincidence made spectacular by deep water and the hunger of human pattern recognition. Or they may not be. Somewhere below the surface of the Caribbean Sea, 700 meters down, where no light reaches and no current stirs, something is sitting in the dark, blocks of stone, cut and placed, arranged, by someone, we just don't know when,